my son looks like a killed animal like that.
In 1982, a tragedy stunned American society. 27-year-old American Chinese Vincent Chin was fatally beaten with a baseball bat by two white men just 2 days before his wedding. At that time, the Japanese auto industry was seen as a serious threat to its US counterpart. Suffering from plummeting car sales and massive layoffs, US manufacturers, politicians and union leaders shifted their blame to the Japanese auto industry. Unemployed American auto workers became hateful toward people of Japanese descent. The two white murderers, Ronald Ebbins and Michael Nitz, worked at a local auto company. They mistook Vincent for a Japanese person and vented their age on him.
Then he said something about, well, because y'all motherfuckers are out of work.
After Ebbins and Nitz pleaded guilty, Judge Charles Kaufman sentenced the two to just 3 years of probation and over $3,000 in fines. That meant the killers didn't have to go to jail. They could just pay the fine and go home.
The victim lingered for 4 days, which again, based upon everything, was indicative to me that they attempted to administer a punishment. They did this too severely in careless, reckless disregard of human life, which is what manslaughter is.
The verdict was deemed unjustifiable by many Americans and sparked widespread controversy. It seemed that being white rendered the perpetrators less culpable and Vincent's death trivial since he was an Asian American. Many Asian Americans were outraged by the identity discrimination and double standard. This tragic case that happened more than 40 years ago sparked a pan-Asian civil rights movement in the US, where Asian American immigrants from different countries united for the first time to fight for human rights.
He think that we owe him some kind of a gratitude because we, the people, Chinese people here, all united against his judgment.
Over 40 years after Vincent's death, attacks against Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in the US continue to rise. From March 19, 2020 to the end of 2021, 10,905 incidents involving verbal abuse and direct assault were reported by Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. The founding history of America is built on the oppression, discrimination and hypocritical and arrogant white supremacy against other races. Uncle Sam's hands are stained with the blood of Native Americans. The cotton fields are fertilized with the blood and tears of black slaves. And the white bones of Chinese laborers were piled up under the Pacific Railroad. The Chinese Exclusion Act of the 1880s, the internment camps for Japanese Americans during World War II, and the attacks on Arab Americans and Muslims after 9/11, all point to the persistent systematic and institutionalized discrimination against minorities in the US. All men are created equal proclaimed in the Declaration of Independence is a mere slogan with no action. Today, this trend is getting even stronger. The COVID-19 outbreak has accelerated the prevalence of white supremacy and racial violence in America. In 2019, there were 155 white nationalist groups in the US. In 2021, 733 hate groups exist in America. 8,052 racially motivated hate crimes were reported in the US in 2020, with 61.8% of victims targeted because of their race, ethnicity or ancestry. Of the 6,780 known offenders, 55.1% are white.
The top domestic violent extremist threat comes from racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, specifically those who advocated for the superiority of the white race.
UN Secretary-General Guterres warns that white supremacy has become a new transnational threat and has exploited the coronavirus pandemic to boost their support. Don't judge a book by its cover, they say, but in the US, it only seems to work if you're a white book.